if you've seen the incident with Real Madrid footballer Vinicius and the Benfica player that happened in the Champions League game at Benfica Stadium, obviously there's been alleged racist abuse, being veiled at the Benfica player from Vinicius. It was said other players heard remarks that were made by that Benfica player, by Mbappe. Valverde mentioned in an interview, some of the things that he was told he heard. He condemned it. Obviously, Mbappe condemned it. And Vinicius made it clear to the referee what took place. I've got some clips that will illustrate a few moments of the incident. I'm not surprised about it. This is something that is part and parcel of society, and that's where the main issues lie. Unless humans, we decide we don't want certain things won't exist in many years to come. This is more for the generations to come. Because at the end of the day, there's certain people of a certain disposition that have just made their mind up. This is what I think, based on nothing more apart from skin. So that's just the way people think, and that's just where we are. But I'll play the clip and the moment between the two. Then obviously there will be another clip about, seeing how one of the fans were reacting. And then obviously we'll delve in briefly to Mourinho's comments in regards to the situation, which I thought I was expecting a bit more better from someone like Mourinho, just on the face of things, based on his history in football and his obviously involvement with players from different backgrounds. But let me get into the first clip and I'll have my assessments after.
Otário do caralho! É na cal, filho da puta! É na cal, filho da puta! É na cal, filho da puta! Animal do caralho! Não, filho da puta!
Now, when you see the clip, you can see the player from Benfica. You can see clearly he raises his top and then says something to Vinicius. And then Vinicius reacts as if, oh my gosh, look what he said. Look what he said. He runs to the ref. And then that's when obviously he made it clear that, look what he said. This is what he said. Right? Then you see the Benfica player's reaction. It's as if, oh, what is he doing? What is he doing? It's a shock. It's a sort of, to me, an admission of like, oh my gosh, what? You're going to try and tell on me? You're feeling guilty in that instance, because if somebody has done something and you know that someone is telling lies on you, you're going to be like, why is he running? You just may be like, where is he going? But that reaction of that startled, animated reaction, to me, can easily suggest I'm guilty here. Easily that can suggest that, because you're like, why are you going to now tell on me? And I think this is where you can see the mentality is not based on just, I play football and this is what I think. It's a mentality that is within society. This guy is a young guy, young player. So this is something that he will grow up around. It's likely within the mentality of where he's from, unfortunately. And this is not just based on him or his background only. It's just a result of the mentality of how people are viewed. So in this case, you can see a player who knows what he's done, it seems, although it's alleged, but he looks like he knows what he's done based on his reaction. And this is what society has allowed, embedded for many generations. So we want change in football. How? When it's a result of what is in society, when it's a result of what is in families, a lot of the time. Yes, these are mentalities passed down. So if I see my granddad do it, if I see my grandma do it, or if I see my friends, or if I see my uncles and how we speak about certain things, it's going to be the norm. So these things you see in football is just a result. And I think people know this with common sense. They know that, oh, this is what can happen in different professions in life. It can make its way into institutions. It can make its way into anywhere. it chooses to be based on the human being deciding to continually perpetuate these mentalities. And until the mentality is taught about what makes logical sense about how you view humans, it won't change. Curriculums in school need to change. Everything needs to change when it comes to how we do things as people. Governments need to involve how things can change in terms of how they, legislate certain things. Many things can change in terms of just unlearning years and years of this embedded mentality of I look at someone's skin and then I make my assessment. But I'll show you another clip of where this all came from in terms of just the annoyance of the players of Benfica and the fact that they couldn't take that Vinicius was celebrating. Now, when you go to a team's ground, you generally want to do what you can to win. Everything in line with treading the line of trying to, get people off their square. If you do that, you're in football or you're in sports, competitive environment, fine. But to be able to think, okay, I now need to say this because I know that's your trigger point. I know you've had issues with this in the past. And not just Vinicius, other players of certain backgrounds have had this. Who haven't mentioned it? Who haven't mentioned it while they were playing? Henri alluding to it. Michael Richards alluding to it. And many others. We saw, if you're from a certain age group and you have certain, people that will tell you stuff, John Barnes. So this is not new. It's just something that is embedded in society. And as long as it remains due to people not wanting to unlearn, then these things will happen in football. But I'll play the other clip. And then obviously I'll show you the celebration that he had that made people feel that, oh, I need to say these alleged words against him. So that was the celebration. He's Brazilian. That kind of dancing style is part and parcel of the South American environment, African environment. It's Caribbean. Whoever the player is, generally, that's what they do. Now, it's in front of the opposing fans. Okay, that's typical of banter. That's typical of trying to, saying, "Hey, I've scored against you." That's normal competitive football. That's normal competitive sports. But if you don't like something, fine. But to use derogatory assessments on someone just because you look at their skin and say, "I'm not happy with what you're doing. You're getting under my skin," literally, and I need to do this and say this against you. Cover my mouth because I'm not brave enough to say it to your face, eye to eye, with the mouth uncovered, so cameras can see it. If I'm really about that, let your mouth be seen by the camera. But you calculated, let me cover my face and then say it. But it's more than just racism. It's if there's issues around the world, if there's so many issues around the world that are not being taken care of when it comes to humans' well-being, what would this be? How would this be ranked as important? Because UEFA have had instances of this and they have not done anything of note. They have not done anything that shows they understand or even care about it, because it doesn't affect the people in these establishments. It doesn't. It affects only the players of a certain background. But if you don't know how to feel towards certain things, it wouldn't invoke anything. It wouldn't, because you're not having that mentality to think this is something that we need to crack down on in a severe way. Because until it hits your doorstep, until certain things are a threat to certain people in certain environments, that's when they may want to make a change. But they do not know how to make a change because it's not something that is on their mind. I don't believe some of these establishments really care about it enough. I think on face value, it's just a lot of saying the right things or trying to act like we're going to stop it. We need to clamp down on this. I think it's just words. I don't think if it doesn't affect you really deeply, because you may not be in that situation, you may not understand it, you may not be a black person in this case, you're not going to You're going to say things. Now, that's not to say everybody is like this in terms of who is not from a certain background, who won't say anything, or because there have been people that say things. But my point is, for it to really be changed, you have to actually feel something. Now, it's not just also the word. You can say whatever, N-word, you're this, you're that. It's what the context is behind what you're saying. It's to suggest a human being is nothing. It's to suggest I'm superior than you. Who are you? You're this. So I'm going to say that you're nothing. You're worse than, maybe you're as low as the animals. You're as an animal. You're as a cretin in society. That's how the racism feels to people when it is said, especially in a case like this, when you're a black person. It's to make you feel like you are nothing. You see, a word is one thing. People may say, oh, but it's just a word, because I've heard a lot of people speak like that. You're getting offended by words. That's not it. It's the context behind it. It's the history behind it. Actual history of things taking place based on an ideology of someone, you know? If people, again, are doing things that are not what you want or not what another human wants, there's ways to address it. Generations upon generations keep accepting it, teaching the young kids about it, making comments in homes that are perceived as jokes. Now, I can make a joke, I can make an assessment about myself, about people within my demographic. That's all well and good. I'm all for comedy. You know, if it's a comedy aspect, we can make, estimates of that. But when it's something to do with the context behind what you're saying in an angry moment, when you're angry, that's the first thing you do. No human of any background is perfect. No one can say, I am more than another, because everybody has fallen short. But the point is, how are we going to now start unlearning to move forward? I'll show you another video as well of a fan in Benfica. And also, Benfica made some statements trying to nullify and take away the steam that they're getting. It was ridiculous. So that's one of the fans. Again, these are the things that are part and parcel. You know, if you're from a certain background, you're not surprised. If you're from a certain background, you're like, it is what it is based on the mentality that wants to continually exist. So it's part and parcel of it. And Mourinho, the special one, they say, he had an interview and he basically alluded to Vinicius inciting based on that celebration I showed you. So basically saying, oh, he needs to, watch his celebration, because he said he told him that he needed to watch his celebration. Why don't you just celebrate and go to your fans' side? So I'm basically saying you evoked it. You incited it. And that has been looked at as a reason to an extent why somebody has said what they've said. Again, it doesn't affect you, so you're not going to think a certain way. Those comments are indicative of, I'm not looking at it from that perspective. It doesn't affect me. I don't understand it. I know it exists, but it doesn't affect me. But I'm not going to speak about it and say, if my player did say something, and it's proven particularly, but if other players are saying he said it, I'm going to look into it and I'm going to denounce anything that this person said. If you care, you will say that, but you don't. And I think that's the issue here. It's nothing to be shocked on. Sometimes you just don't give a what about it. And that's just all it is. That's just all it is. This is all alleged, it's said, but there's a lot of evidence and there's a lot of things that suggest things were said based on other players' accounts and also based on the reaction. If, again, like I said, you've not done anything, you wouldn't really react like that. You'd be like, what's going on? But his reaction suggested to me guilt. A lot of people in certain environments in life are in certain big positions or in certain positions, and you will never know. And that's where the problems lie. The covert nature sometimes. This one, overt in this case, but the covert is where the main issues are. But it will be interesting to find out what people think. Obviously, I'm not surprised. I looked at this, saw it, and I thought it's worth my 2 cents because, again, it's how the perception is when you say certain things. It's what you're basically saying about a fellow human being and how you're limiting them to absolutely nothing. But until things are done in society, sport, workplaces, anywhere you go in life, it will exist. It's just as simple as that. Unless we put the work in as humans, that over many, many years, I would say in about 20 years, it's possible for things to immediately, at that time, be gone. But things have to be cared for, and the people in power in certain institutions have to decide. But if there's no diverse environments, then nobody will really, really care. Like the video, I'm on this platform, London born, and I'm on this platform to make something that actually makes logical sense based on anything that comes out in society. And most importantly, anything that is worthy of commentary. So yeah, this is what it is. Grammatics TV. What do you guys think? What's your assessment?